Welcome back to the briefing room. Today we find out who Warwick Penrose really is, the veteran and founder behind EPE Trusted to Protect, a company built to keep soldiers and first responders alive. From the battlefield to the boardroom, this is his story. Welcome to the briefing room. Whether you're in defence, investing into the future, or simply curious about how great ideas become reality, this is your mission briefing. Let's get started. Warwick, welcome to the briefing room.
Thank you. Thanks, Peter. Good to be here. EP is a group of companies. We're a defence and space company. We design, develop and deliver a lot of counter-threat solutions, lots of robotic platforms to about 17 countries now around the world. We have an innovation company where we're trying to translate some technologies to make an impact, and we've got a joint venture in the US to try and help get into that particular market there. But so yes, I'm the founder. My wife and I are the owners of the business, proudly Queensland and veteran owned. And
when did you kick it off?
15 years ago, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So we started with in the basement, as you do around the pool table.
Yep.
I think we got to about 12 people at home, and then we moved to our first facility, and now we've got facilities in the US and New Zealand, and the main one here is in Brisbane. And I've been
to that one. It was like walking into a cave of hidden away tech. People.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say that it's dark, and it was a very lovely facility, but it was like walking into one of the James Bond labs where there's so many cool things being built, created, engineered, concepts being drawn up, and then you've also got the team there building things right here in the centre of Brisbane at Spring Hill.
We have an astronaut that works for us, a rocket scientist now with our Rover program, and really just a lovely fabric of experienced veterans, business professionals that sort of make the whole team synchronise and hum and deliver the value that our clients sort of need and want. And the other subset of what we do is we built proving grounds, because we don't sell cornflakes or Cocoa Pops, The systems that we deliver to defence or space sort of have to work. So it's really important for us. We don't really want any capability to leave the business unless we've validated it and we know where it stops and starts. Particularly with robotics, you change a little thing on a platform and it works differently. And I think some of our success is the fact that, our clients really trust us. We've got this domain expertise. We invest heavily in, just had 2 people in Ukraine, last month. So we really try and stay on that edge of what our near peers are doing, understand that, and then really advise our clients to detect, identify, exploit it, neutralise it and make it safe.
So I'm going to go back 15 years ago.
Yes.
You and your wife kicked this off at home. You were currently serving, were you? Or had you left the Army?
Yes.
Yep. What was the reason had you come to the end of your time there? Do you want to walk us through what that decision was like for you?
Yeah, I was a country kid, grew up in Narrabri, reasonably austere background. So the Defence Force was excellent for me to get a career around and experience and management techniques and those things, which is really good. So I had that hunger to build things, and I just found myself in my military career, I was just put in jobs where we had to create things. So I was really fortunate that I had 3 particular jobs where we had to start new capabilities for the Defence Force. And, the last one for me is really helping be part of a team that raised our national specialist bomb disposal, chemical, biological and nuclear response team. So I got to command that for the Sydney Olympics, which is an awesome experience, right? Like, a team of scientists, and we had US people embedded in the team, and so our job, if there was a chemical, biological or nuclear weapon, our team's job was to detect, identify and make it safe. So I really had an excellent career in the military. And I was going through that process. We only had 6 months to set the unit up. So, from 5 people to, I think, about 220 was the full strength of that unit during the Olympics.
That was 2000?
That was 98, 99. And so I got sent overseas for 6 months of specialist training.
And the lead up to the Olympics?
In the lead up, yeah, because Australia didn't have the capability before.
Right.
So we benchmarked the Canadians, the Americans and the British really closely. And then when you have to start things quickly, your industry partners have to be at the fore. So, again, we didn't have a lot of time to do this. We had the Olympics in Australia, so it was a no-fail activity. And so I got to meet a lot of really good industry partners. I grew a relationship with, we could rely on. They translated technologies and training into the team to do the job that we had to do. Yeah, one of those guys asked me to work for them. Yeah, so when I left the military in 2003, Then I was advising governments in the Indo-Pacific area, India up to Japan, Hawaii and Australia is my area, and really just talking to governments on how to develop and create their own niche capabilities in explosive reduction or chemical warfare or nuclear capability. So, and I really enjoyed that job. But, at the end of the day, I was working for a technology company. So the guys that make 80% of the bomb suits is a Canadian company, the bomb jammers, robotic systems. So I was really looking for opportunities as we're talking to governments. And then I had to look for channel partners in those countries. So I was fortunate I had 33 countries, and by the time I finished in 7 years, we had set up 22 channel partners, little distributors. So I got to have a really good benchmarking opportunity, what works, what doesn't work, before it was my time to start my own business, which I did 15 years ago.
Obviously, that exposure or operating within the Army in that area made you, or probably planted the seed that you were interested in doing this on a larger scale outside independently?
Yeah, I think like a lot of people just have a strong sense of right from wrong and a strong sense of community and service. A lot of defence people do. First responders, surf life saving, like there's just a whole raft of volunteer organisations where people want to help. And so that was, sort of part of my purpose, and I found my technical speciality in this sort of bomb response and the higher end of chemical, biological things. And so, so my purpose and the purpose of my business is to, enable and protect Australians and our allies to operate safely. So we do that with the capabilities that we provide, the robot systems, the training. And I think when you sort of come from a background like myself and a lot of the team, we know that people get exposed to risk when things don't work.
Yep.
That's why it's important for us to build proving grounds to make sure that we stay on top of the near-peer threats, because the government's going to ask Australians and our governments of allies ask their people to go into harm's way sometimes. So it's really important that it's got to work the first time. Otherwise, you've got to get a suit on and you're over the risk. And that still makes me nervous even thinking about that today. So we're quite driven by that.
And especially you're at the forefront of understanding what the risks are like. So what did you go to the market with first when you first kicked off independently under your own? Was it EPE from the start?
Yeah, EPE from the start, yeah. So really we just provided bomb suits and bomb disposal weapon systems. So, and that was a much simpler business back then. There was only one or two products in the global market. We're the best one. So pretty much it was a good little business. But when you provide the niche capabilities, you get all these small populations of capabilities that people need.
How do you keep up with that? There's new things being created every single day.
Yep.
How do you stay on top of that, or how does the team stay on top of what is being built elsewhere if you're going to have to do the unpacking and understanding of it?
Well, in Defence too, we're just a support partner. So we've got some scientists in there and some technical people and the servers and bits and pieces, we manage those. So it's a really good blended partnership between defence and industry partners and some research partners, in that capability as well. You stay on top of it because you're just naturally interested in it, Peter.
Yes.
I've done nothing else for 28 years now. And I think there's some core things that stay the same. A circuit's a circuit. You need a power, you need a detonator. These materials, mostly it's still explosive. Yes, there's some new ones coming down the range. So some things stay the same, and it's really just looking for those differences where you understand, okay, well, this has changed now. So how are we going to detect it, identify it, and make it safe?
Yes.
So, it's we're just professionally interested in it. It comes back to purpose, right? Yes. I've got a whole team that, guys on weekends,
that's their personal interest.
That's their personal interest. So we're pretty
lucky. How do you attract that caliber of person to come and work with you? I notice when I come to visit any one of your team, I got to stand up a bit straighter. Everyone, ex-defence, hold themselves a really different way, and I know you've got a lot of them in there.
Yep.
How do you attract that caliber of talent within your business?
A good purpose. Your values, your values have to align to be part of the team, really mission and outcome focused. So I think people come to EPE and they see some of the capabilities we provide today. They see how we're trying to develop those solutions for the future. I've got 12 university partners now in CSIRO, so we're actively working on, I can't go to the supply chain and solve some problems, right?
Yep.
So we need to innovate to have those tomorrow's capabilities. And I think that's what people see, we
do you use
we like doing it.
University partners mostly for research or the capability within the universities that you don't have specifically?
Bit of both.
Bit of both, yep.
So there, we've got some of the universities we're translating some technology to commercialise. And fundamentally, they've got a lot of good operational test and evaluation capability. So for the ROVA program, we have 10 universities as part of that program in the consortium. Over half of those partners validating some science for us.
How does it work when you have so many partners like that? Who owns it? How do you structure that? When you've got a lot of people working on all different areas. That one in particular,
It's
I know
a program,
it's quite complicated.
Right?
It's a program.
Yeah.
But does anybody own the IP specifically?
Australia. Yes, Australia.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a great technology partner, Lunar Outpost. It's a US company, so they're under contract by NASA to make some lunar rovers now. And so we wanted to harness the best of that and translate it into the country. So EP is the program lead. We're the grantee. We're translating a lot of their know-how into this country. A lot of that's getting translated into different other Australian industry partners and research partners. Yeah, so the IP and this particular project, it is a grant. It's a $42 million grant. And there's $54 million of program activity. And it's a very interesting one for us. One, EP, my company, we're the delivery partner for Australia, and we'll be exploring the moon in 2029, back at this decade. Just nut stuff, right? But we've got 500 robots and drones in the paddock. We are very used to providing, extreme robotics that work the first time. So, the lunar rover is but one. Very different environment, but again, there's a lot of the same, in doing a project like that. So it is a grant. We've got a technical part of the grant. We have to design and build ROVA when we're doing a couple of those. We have to test and validate it in Australia. We have to set up an operations centre and a couple because we have to run the mission from Australia.
Right.
And then we have to run the mission and we close it down after that. So this is a technical part of our...
Where is that going to be set up?
Well, we're trying to attract some state government strategic partners on board. Mm-hmm. So EPE is in Brisbane. We'd love the Queensland government to be our partner on that, but we are talking to other state governments. The program needs to attract additional funding. I'm not paid to do flash. I'm paid to make sure that this robot works the first time.
And why is it important to be doing things like this project in particular, and sending a robot to the moon?
It's the other half of the project which is in our contract. It's in our contract. This project had to inspire the nation. We have to do outreach to every school and university
to encourage more people
in the
to
country
follow suit.
There's opportunities
like
in
this?
STEM. There's opportunities for Australian space industry. Australia will showcase the best of what we've got, and we are going to the moon.
Okay.
And that experience, we need to then, we want Australian industry. The lunar ecosystem is what we're at the forefront of. So, Australian construction companies should have the opportunity to build the moon base. Australian mining companies should look and extract resources that are going to be helpful back to Earth. Some of the resources that we're looking for on the moon at the back of the decade, it's not only just they've got to build a moon base, they've actually got to build a rocket to go to Mars. So we're part of the Artemis project, the NASA Artemis project. And the Artemis project is they want to put man on Mars back of next decade. So to do that, they need to build a moon base. And to do that, the rocket's going to have to leave from the moon with people in it to Mars. So Australia put their hand up and said, we're actually really good at mining. We're really good at robotics. So the NASA said, right, okay, well, we're exploring 3 areas. Australia, you got the South Pole. So that's pretty much the big picture of how the space agency and how project fits into the Artemis mission. But we're trying to look for resources that can make a big impact back on Earth. The new sources of energy supply to help with climate change, and let's try and cool the Earth by 2 degrees. And there's some minerals and resources up there that might make a big tangible difference to do that. And there's just these other resources up there that NASA and mankind are trying to understand what they are to see how they can be benefit.
Did you think that when you kicked off this business from the garage at home 15 years ago, that you'd be working on a project that will be going to the moon?
No, not at all. Like I've met the head of NASA.
And 15 years is not a long period of time, right?
No.
So you can only imagine in the next 15 what might be possible, all the conversations you might be having.
Hopefully, I've got the 5 companies now, right? And the businesses do, some quite different things.
What are those 5 businesses?
The primary one, the head company is EP Oceania, looking after Australia, and we provide the corporate services to the group. I have a business that's focused on developing the international market, and we're doing a particular pivot into Europe at the moment. Lots of opportunities on that eastern flank of NATO, the Baltic countries, Scandinavia. What we do, we think we can make a real impact on there for Europe. I have a US company. I have a joint venture in the US, which is it's American-owned company with different set-asides. That helps me with that market. The New Zealand company, we've got 5 different prime vendor contracts there. So the last one we've just signed up is our biggest one. So we're supporting a Spanish company. They've got a $100 million contract to replace all the military vehicles for New Zealand. So an EP is a support partner for that.
And what does that involve when you are a support partner for a contract that big? What do you do? What is your requirement to contribute there?
People, expertise, managing a fleet of equipment the way that New Zealand Defence Force want that equipment maintained and managed, integration support, bit of depot level repair. And the vehicle is a bit like a robot, right? It's just a platform. So it's going to carry people. They might want different communication systems. They might want to put rocket systems on it. They might want to put ambulance systems, So we'll be the integration partner support for the Spanish company over the next 25 years of the life of that vehicle. So that's good. And then all my businesses sell products. As you go up the maturity curve, the international business, the US, New Zealand, Australia, we deliver projects. And the Australian New Zealand companies now are prime vendors in their own rights. And the last one, which I'm particularly interested in being the entrepreneur, is my innovation company. So, I am particularly passionate about translating Australian ideas to make a big difference in the areas that EP works in. We've had some great successes in the country. You've got your mine labs of the world for detectors, drone shields punching above their weight, globally on counter-drone systems. Some of the robotic and drone platforms are making a big impact around the world. EPE's focus is to apply those technologies for the counter-threat space that we operate in, and it's reducing the risks of explosives, narcotics and chemicals to Australians and allies.
I can see that one you're very excited about in particular. What do you see that we are missing? There's some gaping holes either in capability or some innovations that have not yet been created yet, or there's a space that you would like to see something created.
Yep.
Have you got any that you are looking into or you'd like to find some solutions for?
Absolutely. The one we're focused on at the moment is at scale, enabling drones particularly to use computer vision to identify landmines, down drones, explosive remnants of war. The Russians are putting in 2,500 drone strikes a day in Ukraine. The amount of artillery fire and missiles coming into the country, we've never seen. It's the most dangerous landscape in global conflict history, Ukraine. And there's a fair percentage of the Russian munitions that don't go off. So the scale of the problem of Ukraine as they, one, operate to win, but two, then repair the country in the future. So, for EPE, I think a real value add for us to do is to detect, identify these threats at scale. So there's
nothing out there at the moment that does that?
Not the way we want to do it. So we want to use computer vision to identify a down drone. Well, what is the explosive payload that's on the ground?
Yes.
What are these landmines that you can see, or down missiles or weapon systems? So if we can detect and locate that at scale, so the drones coming out and do a normal ISR mission like they do, but at the same time, if we can detect, locate and drop on a map where those things are, then that drone wall, we then want to enable where we can use the same drone to reduce those threats at scale. So, a lot of the landmines or a down drone, particularly in the high conflict area, a thermite grenade or an explosive charge to reduce that risk.
Yes.
So that's an area there we're actively investing in at the moment, is using robotic systems at scale to detect and locate these threats and then have modularized payloads to go out and reduce those threats, which is core for us, right? Because if we don't do it, there's
someone else
a
is
soldier,
going to.
right? Yeah, that's harm and
that's
risk.
right.
Yeah, so that's a big area of opportunity for us. There's a couple of others. There's some great technology out of CSIRO for respiratory protection. You put on a CBRN suit and you go into an area that might have chemical weapons or a toxic industrial chemical. And a lot of the canisters nowadays use a material which are reasonably effective but could be better. And
each time I've told this story, I have, usually to a room full of people, explained that there are currently masks that don't cover all of the different gases or chemicals that you might be faced with. And it is really hard to believe, anybody who's not involved in the industry, that this exists, that there is not one thing that protects, and you got to be able to swap your masks out, and that's what obviously you're working on to fix this problem.
Yeah, so translating that's difficult, right?
Really
this
hard.
new material, there's only one company in Australia that we could use to translate the manufacture of this chemistry into, and it didn't work. Like, the science is great, so I'm actually going to have to go overseas to have that pellet, metal organic framework substance pellet.
So can you just explain then what currently exists and what you're working on to solve that problem? As in, there is not something, and how many different chemicals are there that an individual might get exposed to?
There's lots of different ones, and our near-peer adversaries are looking at doing new ones.
Okay.
So there are systems that will provide complete protection, but that means the guys have to put on a big suit with a breathing apparatus on, and then you're protected, right? But you just load yourself up with 6 or 7 kilograms, and your time is, you're relying when the air runs out. That's not great. So generally, people have a mask and a canister, and inside the canister is usually an activated charcoal system, which is pretty good in terms of conventional.
So we're talking about, who are we speaking about wearing these suits? Can you just explain, to unpack, who is actually at the forefront of utilising
defence people, so our soldiers, sailors and airmen, if they have to go in an environment like that, your police, first responders, if there's those sort of, chemicals. And police and first responders will, because there's some gaps in capability for these canisters, they often just sort of do the big breathing apparatus. And our canister will still use some activated charcoal in it, because activated charcoal is still pretty good for a couple of different areas. But where it provides a big performance improvement with our new chemistry, our metal organic framework substances, we're getting 5 to 10 times improved performance from this new material, which means our soldiers, sailors and airmen can stay in that environment for 4 or 5 times longer, but probably more importantly, gives them another 4 or 5 times more time to get out of that environment to clean themselves down, right? So it's looking highly likely. There's no money in our defence ecosystem for this. It's not a missile or a... I'll have to go overseas to raise that money.
We don't spend or invest as heavily in the survivability part of defence, it seems.
Yeah, potentially in different areas. So that's one part. So I think one of your questions was, what do we need to do things differently in this country to translate technology well? I think the way the US does some things is extremely good. At the moment, the last several years in defence, and they're changing now, which is good, but let's do a technology demonstration, and then there's either no money or a couple of years before they actually go to market to buy what you've just demonstrated. And they're changing that now, some of the projects that we're seeing. So it's not only demonstrate, but here's the money to set up your low-rate production facility to make 100. So that provides that capital to make that difference. And
if you look at the last couple of years and how things have evolved globally, those couple of years, how much changes and what new threats come into play. So whatever you've created a solution for can change so rapidly.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to fix this speed to market.
And speed of relevance.
Capability.
And our speed of innovation and our speed of proving and our speed of the organisation's procurement systems that we support to actually adapt and get things done. And one of the challenges, we've got a system at the moment where there's just so risk averse that it's not adapting at the speed of relevance. And
how do we fix that?
I'm a big believer. I think one of the questions...
you're an amazing advocate. You're continuously having the right conversations with a lot of people, but there needs to be coming from lots of different angles. And you also do the follow-on, which is proving capability by putting products and services out into the world that do solve some of these problems. So proving what's possible here.
It is, and it's how do you fix it is you give people belief. Australia, we're the 13th richest country in the world. If we choose to, we can defend ourselves in the future with not the over-reliance on the allies that we have at the moment. We can do this. We can align the capital to come in. If we restructure how that capital is deployed, so and Steve's doing a great job at raising awareness on that and making a bit of a difference in that area, which is really good.
Well, it's about bringing the conversation to the forefront and having them in a more of a public forum and highlighting where there are gaps and where we are lagging, because I don't think it's been a tabled conversation in most general conversions for people to be aware of how big that problem is.
And that belief goes in many different areas, right? You're around the kitchen table, you're at a barbecue, you've got to put that message. Australia, we can do this. Australia, we're falling way behind. There's a lot of risks, and the money that we're spending will give us capability in 5 or 6 years. That's not going to help the fight tonight capability today.
Yes.
It's when you're talking to the leaders, our political class, industries can have this, guys. You've got to trust that we can do this. And, of course, then you've got to follow through. It's having that same conversation with defence procurement or policy people. Guys, we've got to accept more risk to be able to generate at the speed of relevance that Australia is now in. So there's no one way to fix that. And I think you've got to think, well, where do you fit in the ecosystem? And, the best thing I can do is try and provide mentoring support and belief. We can do this, but if you don't change, it's more of the same.
Yes.
And more of the same is not good enough. Yeah.
And you've done a lot of work so far. You're continuing to do a lot more work. But how do you empower future generations or even your next leaders coming through inside your organisation to still carry that baton forward when you are either working on different projects, because it's a very broad focus that you've got?
Yeah.
How do you foster that sense of urgency but also have ownership over the problem internally?
Goal setting, measuring, we've got a 5-year plan. You've been to our office. This is where I believe the companies will be in 5 years' time. And I've done that for like 14 years now. So it's fascinating to see what we dreamt up.
When things are actually coming to fruition.
Way back in 2021, what does EP look like in 2026?
And here we are.
I go tick, tick, tick. Like, how did that happen, right? So it is good.
I think it's methodical execution over time and not losing sight of the mission.
And testing and adjusting too, right? And that's a challenge. Like, I'm not going to be working hopefully into my 60s. I am trying to set up EP as a multi-generational sort of business. We might take some equity on the table. We might sell at some point. But so, the legacy is, how do you keep the same values and culture in the business when you're not directly in it?
Yes,
and
this is the challenge.
It is.
This is an ongoing challenge for a lot of, it's not just defence specific either. This is an issue that most businesses and leaders face over time.
Yeah. I think it's making sure you recruit smartly. We will still need a core of domain experience, threat people for that same sense of urgency that the current team has. Because we can't walk. We've got to jog.
And for anybody mid-career inside defence who is looking to get involved with something externally or kick something off themselves, is there some personality traits or skills that you think that they need to either make that transition into, say, business ownership, entrepreneurship, or lead their own personal mission, however you want to frame it, that you think that might help them feel encouraged to be able to make the move?
The career in the Defence Force is an amazing opportunity. The training system, of the Defence Force has been refined over millennium. So you actually sort of come away with really great skills. And the good thing about veterans is you learn resilience, you learn integrity, you learn trust, and you are generally very outcomes and mission focused and quite adaptable. So all those core values, they're all core values in EPE, and we want people to be part of our team that have those core values. And generally veterans have those in spades.
Yes.
So it's actually just, don't doubt yourself. You've had some awesome experiences in defence, and sometimes some not great experiences as well. And that's where the community can really sort of come in to offer that support. But we actively look for veterans all the time because of those core values and the experience that they bring.
Oh, look, I've seen it, and I believe that they are extremely valuable. I think probably some of the doubt or lack of belief in self is just because it is very much inside an institution, and they may wonder if those skills are applicable outside. And I know there's a lot of support services that do help with that transition to be able to step into the
corporate world. And it will be different if you're doing something very different to what you're used to, and so I don't really have much experience in that because I could be wearing a green skin uniform or an EPE shirt. It doesn't really matter.
No.
So one team providing
but
sort of capability.
I think businesses like yours are helping provide alternative pathways. They don't always need to go into corporate consulting. They don't always need to go leadership and management. They can actually utilise the skills that they've learned, apply it on the field as such, but in that innovation capability in that space, in this space.
Yeah. No, I think it's identifying any person, right? What do you like to do? What is your purpose? And just double down on that. If you like doing something, you actually get quite good at it.
Yes.
And if you keep on really liking, you get really good at it, and then you've got some really good value to put to whichever industry that needs that.
You've worked with lots of different countries, leaders. Australians tend to not be as hungry. I know we have a very aligned mission with what we want to achieve, but our attitude can sometimes seem a bit laid back and casual, opposed to if you compare us to American counterparts.
Yeah.
What do you see as some things that we could maybe do if it's a young founder pitching an idea to the US market that would put them on par with perhaps some international counterparts, to put them in the running to be heard and get their innovations listened to or seen? Yeah,
it's really doing good research on what the need is and how that particular client needs that value. Work on your pitch, on how you're going to do that. But it's actually having the belief to follow through. And, we employ a lot of engineers, and I've got an astronaut and rocket scientists on staff now. It's so good to see those non-defence veterans with their skills coming in, understanding where they fit in the ecosystem of things. And now I sit back and listen to my innovation manager. God, he's done a lot in 7 years.
Yes.
Now we've got roovers, canisters, had just awesome special forces activity we delivered a week ago where we've got small drones and robots and quadrupeds, and it's all coming together, and we're mapping things, and it's all coming in 3D imagery, and we're in tunnel systems, and it's like, how good is that? And we're just appreciating you're all part of a puzzle.
Yes.
And it's like, where do you fit into that puzzle?
I spent 4 years at QUT and often gave talk to the mechatronics unit.
Oh, yeah.
Various engineers as well.
Yep.
And one of the biggest gaps was them understanding and thinking there were potential jobs or the future for their skills that they were learning right here inside organisations where they could actually go and work on this fun stuff, which is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Do you work with a lot of, I know you said you've got partnerships with the universities, but do you showcase what you're building right here in the CBD to those young engineers and mechatronics students to showcase that this is the sort of stuff you can go and build in the real world? Yeah,
and we want to build more of those partners. We're very lucky. I've spent $2.5 million building proving grounds and test labs, and we've got 10 acres here at Pullenvale.
I went out there and did the tour with you.
Queensland Centre of Advanced Technology there. So, and I think where industry players like us can really fit in well is how do you apply that technology in the field? So you've got great scientists, and you're a mechatronics guy or a sensor guy and that sort of stuff, but it's actually bringing it all together. And it's the application, whether you're mining or agriculture, in our case, the defence and national security sort of area. So we bring a number of different schools, universities. There's PhD students that, we sponsor through Defence Science and Technology that, we put them out there for a week and really just get the context of, how to innovate. But it's actually them really understanding from the get-go, it's got to look like this, size, weight, power. This is how it's got to fit into the ecosystem. You don't want gold-plated or something that's too heavy, right? So you've got to do some trade-offs. So We want to do more of that work with schools and universities. We work with some of the best robotics companies in the world, like Skydio, Boston Dynamics. We're teaching Spot how to find landmines or blow doors or, search tunnel systems. So there's some really clever platforms
really
and
cool stuff.
Scientists, behind that really just helping. And
yes,
it's a good area to be in, and we want to do more of that work, Peter.
So what are we not teaching at schools that you think we should be?
How to communicate.
How to communicate.
Yeah, how to communicate. And actually, really...
Is that just a generational loss that we've had because of tech? It's quite funny that you're in the world of tech, yet the one thing we're wanting our young people, the future leaders to come through, or workers and operators, is to be able to communicate better.
Pick up the phone, talk to someone.
But they
so
don't pick up the phone. That's not a generation.
No.
We're from the generation of having to call people.
But they sort of have to,
yes.
and they've got to get good at that because, you're a business person or a supplier, you need that relationship, right? And
your business has been built on those relationships and partnerships that you put the personal hard yards in the early days, which now you continue. Yeah. And I'm sure you teach that, or it flows down through the culture of the business. Yeah. But if we have a 20-year-old, right, 25, that was when you were deep in starting what you were working on now. Picking up the phone is not second nature. It is not in their skill set.
And I've got a lot of work to do to make them job ready.
Yes.
Yeah.
So certain skills are being taught, but the life skills don't seem to be as important.
Yeah.
I even know that, well, like you said, the flexibility of do it in your time it is sort of lost the punctuality requirement of needing to be somewhere on time for the duration, the sitting to completion. I think doing things to completion, whether you like it or not, is also being lost because you can adapt and pick it up. I do know that the counter to that from younger people is that they don't want to actually be job ready. They want this lifestyle of flexibility where they can apply their skills where they choose, which is great for some industries but not so great for more traditional. We're not asking people to go and sit in a cubicle.
No.
But we are asking them to use because they have amazing skills. So their tech skills that are freshly learned and acquired in the last 20 years is actually what you need within your business.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Which need to couple it with some other skills, more traditional skills.
Yeah, resilience, teamwork, following through, taking responsibility. You've got to be responsible for everything that you do.
Which I know defence teaches that.
They do, yeah.
The real world probably not so much.
Yeah, probably. It's a good reflection.
There's probably some gaps there. I'm not sure what the solution is to that, but I just thought I'd ask you as an employer, but also as a leader of probably a lot of younger people now coming through. If that's what you're
seeing.
Good
onboarding process, good, directive control, let people fail. It's okay, learn from your mistakes, There's no guillotines, right? Take responsibility,
Yes.
I think some of the things I've learned is that trust. You need the client to trust you. If things go wrong, just take responsibility. Basic stuff, right? If you say you do it, just do it. Sometimes things will go wrong, particularly doing more complex projects. Just own it. And just find the way, be adaptable to finish and get the job done.
To completion.
To completion. If you don't have it internally in your organisation, get uni partners or other industry partners, right? It's got to, and if you do that, then your client stays with you and you get more and more and more, and you go from selling a product to delivering a project to actually we've got some problems here as a prime.
Yes.
You come back to us on how you'd solve that. Yeah.
Now, if somebody was listening and wanted to chat with you further in terms of maybe a potential customer or client or even a potential future staff member, how do they what's the best way to reach either yourself or anybody within the team at EPE?
Yeah, probably through the website and my LinkedIn. You can DM me on LinkedIn. Having said that, right, I'm in 17 countries and we've got 5 companies, so it's pretty busy at the moment. And we've grown the group now. It's a bit of a sawtooth. We sort of trade in that $40 to $60 million range at the moment. This year we'll have a better year. Last year was tough. The year before that was good, which is atypical when you get to a medium-sized company like us. Yep. But, we've got the plan to be a $100 million business in a couple of years' time. We do want to translate technologies, and we want to see revenues from the future products that we sell. And coming back to geostrategically, Australia's not in a good way. We need more investment sort of coming into national security generally, like, whether it's fuel or power or defence capabilities, right? We need to take more ownership of that. And people are walking, got their head in the sand, and, that's got to change.
I think again, this is the two perspectives. People who have their head around and understand the defence and what we're facing, and then the general public. And they don't believe that that's the truth.
Correct.
What you said.
Yeah. So, if you're wearing the ecosystem, you should really just, put your point of view out there because, particularly the last sort of 40 years, we've grown up reasonably fat, dumb and happy. We're getting a lot of tax revenues from mining. We're not processing it here. We think that's just going to keep on going and along, I hope it does, right? But, you've got to take – that will only keep on happening if you can generate that deterrence where – today is not the day.
Yes.
So let's trade and let's not have conflict.
Yes.
And, I don't think we're in a position of strength at the moment in Australia. I think we do a much better job at that.
Yes.
Because the world is changing, this rules-based order that we've all grown up with, you as a kid and me as a kid, right? That's changing. And
yes.
you got to appreciate those things are changing. So, it's a fascinating time, Peter, at the moment. I think Australia's in and how to try and create some impact and make some changes. And actually on the investor side, like, where can people improve? And, we are trying to get some capital into the business as well. And, even talking to some of the VCs and PE guys, it's all right, I need a 6-time return, 10 times return, all that sort of stuff. And, well, that's great, and I'm sure you do. But, however, there's just some things that need to get created. There's not a 10 times return. There's not a 6 times return. But Australia needs it. So we need that investment. So it's a bit of a combination. We'll go elsewhere, go to the bank or the government, right? But if they're not available, the country still needs these sort of capabilities. So it is trying to align those investor profiles. But of course, a bit of business as usual, 10x and 6x. Yeah. But there's actually, you want a mix of that. But there's actually some things that, might just wash its face.
Yes.
But we need it. Yeah. So it's got to get done. If it doesn't get done, then we're getting from overseas and we've got a gap if we, our seen lines of communication. So I think there's education in the whole system, right?
There is, and a lot more conversations to be had. One last question before we wrap up is if without the EPE shirt,
right,
without the work hat on,
yes,
who is Warwick? What do you do in your spare time?
Do a bit of diving, a bit of sailing. Love going on holiday. I've got a beautiful wife, great kids. So certainly very fairly family orientated, Peter, yes. which is great. Trying to muddle through being the business owner. And I was lucky enough actually to sit in Hobart a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is good. And we sort of like going on a ski holiday every now and then with the kids. The kids are teenagers and young adults now, which is good. So Jill and I are looking forward to when the kids in uni and we get a bit more time and
do different types of holiday, different travel.
Yeah, with all our friends, they're going through the same sort of thing too, right? So
it's a whole other era.
But trying to muddle our way through how do you set up your family
grow
office
businesses,
and, and translate and, is it the right thing to sell a lot to get an investor in or, so it's a fascinating couple of years ahead for us. So I do think about that a lot.
Yeah.
I've grown up
the
in nothing.
next era, yes.
Yeah,
I think there becomes this 10-year window at the end. It's like, what do we do for this last, for another 10 where I really want to stay focused?
And I do we support veterans charities, the Masonic Youth Welfare Fund put me through schools. So we've got, I do a lot with those guys to try and generate some impact and stuff as well.
To give back and close the loop on the circular economy
and just
of
trying
learning.
to give these opportunities, right, which I got and which I had, which I've been able to take advantage of, but just provide that other mentoring support. So I think when I stopped being full-time at EPE,
yes,
a couple of non-executive boards maybe in the, in the not-for-profit area,
that's the thing with this
right.
lived experience.
Yeah.
You can still have impact in different areas that may be looking for that level of experience.
When you know what your purpose is, it's pretty easy, right? And you're happy to try and help that way because that's just the way you're wired.
Yes. Excellent. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you, Warwick. Thank you so much for being on the briefing room.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us in the briefing room. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with the people shaping our national security and future capability. If you liked what you heard, please follow the show, share it with a friend, and join us next time for more stories and insights from the front lines of innovation. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep building the future.